Hello and welcome to ABC Rainbow 50 Plus Community Volunteer Telephone Befriender Training Session. My name is Johnson. I am your trainer for this Telephone Befriender Service Training Session day today. And the subject we are trying to look at together is how to improve telephone befrienders' conversation skills. How to improve telephone befrienders' conversation skills. ABC Rainbow 50 Plus is a community-based service focused on improving lives of older people. That is what we do in ABC Rainbow 50 Plus. And in which areas are we doing this? In 4 specific areas, among others. Telephone befriending support, health and well-being information, physical fitness and recreational activities, and number 4, we have weekly lunch club. Let's start by reminding ourselves of why we provide telephone befriender service at ABC Rainbow 50 Plus community. The main aim of telephone befriending is to help prevent feelings of loneliness and isolation by providing a regular phone call from a friendly volunteer. I'm taking you through 5 issues in this video. Number 1, we're going to look at things to be aware of as a volunteer telephone befriender. Secondly, we're going to see how to improve listening and speaking skills. Number 3, we want to look at pitfalls to avoid in effective telephone conversation. Number 4, we'll be looking at conversation starters, how to get it, how to boot it, how to get it started for telephone befrienders. And number 5, which is the last one, we'll look at how to end a telephone conversation. Anything that has a beginning, a good beginning, must have a good ending. Number 1, let's start from the very first one. Things to be aware of as a volunteer telephone befriender. Our volunteers and service users are aware of certain things, which I am going to explain to us. Number 1, we are providing a support service to older people who face many challenges around their health, well-being, and social circumstances. The service operates a zero tolerance in terms of discrimination on the basis of racial background, accent, or other protected characteristics. This role may not be for you if you already have certain categories of people you may not wish to support or talk to. But if this role is for you, we encourage our telephone befrienders to commit to as much or as little time as they wish. You don't have to spend 10 hours in 1 week. For example, you could commit 1 hour per week to call 1 or 2 clients, and that's okay. Let's remind ourselves again that our topic for discussion in this video is how to improve telephone befriending conversation skills. Number 2, how to improve listening and speaking skills. This is very important for a telephone befriender. Effective communication is not just about how well you speak or how eloquent you are, but how well you have listened. There are a few ways you can improve your listening skills and, of course, your speaking skills, which can make a conversation more meaningful between yourself and the service user. It's important to ensure that you give plenty of speaking time to the service user so that they may be able to lead the conversation. It's important for them to lead the conversation. Certain issues are very important for us to look at in the speaking and listening and speaking technique. The first one is be patient. The first thing a telephone befriender should do is to be patient. Service user might have difficulties finding the right words. Yes, from time to time, it happens. They may also become distracted or face other speaking challenges. So we need to be patient. Rather than jumping right to help them to complete their line of thought or to help them to complete their sentences, we have to take a deep breath and wait. Silence can feel awkward, but it is in the best interest of older people to have a bit of patience and allow them to pick up their story again. We will always pick up their story again if we are patient. We shouldn't be in a hurry. Also, sometimes while it is good for us to be patient, we may also need to have what you call prompts. We may need to prompt an older person service user. Where it appears that conversation is grinding to a halt, you may offer some prompts to encourage your client to pick up from where they left their stories. To keep them talking, try saying something like, "Tell me more about that." Or ask, "So what happened next?" Apart from prompt, apart from patience, we have to be active listener. The one major challenge that audio telephone conversations may face in keeping up line of thought with older people is active listening. To sustain the tempo of effective communication and to ensure continuous flow of active listening, telephone befrienders will resist the urge to multitask or to do some other task throughout the duration of the session. Rather, it is important to give your full attention to the conversation that is going on. When possible, ask open-ended questions to get a conversation started. These are questions that cannot be answered with a simple yes or no. You have to avoid, when you are trying to prompt, don't ask questions that is only capable of yes or no. Ask questions that will make the older person to refine their thought, their thinking system, and begin to talk again. Instead, questions will spark more conversation because older people require a more detailed answer. Try the phrase, "Tell me more about." You pick something in their story. Say, "Tell me more about it." Of course, a telephone befriender has to avoid distractions. We have to ensure conversation is happening in a carefully chosen, quiet spot. You have to choose a carefully quiet spot, not when we are driving to the cinema or when we are tired or when we are cooking. Or we have to devote the little time that we need to spend with the older person. And we must make sure that there are no background noises where we have chosen. Audio telephone conversation can face additional challenges for someone who has hearing issues. We have to be aware of that. Where the client uses hearing aid, some of them use hearing aid. We have to ensure that they have this in place. You have to encourage them to have this in place where they use it. Of course, a telephone befriender must never argue with the service user. There could be things that are not clear or where you think you have better knowledge. Where you don't agree with your client's opinion during a conversation, resist the urge to argue. Instead, see if you can find a common ground in the conversation that will leave you, both of you, feeling comfortable. Let's move quickly to the third issue that I'm going to cover in the training today. Pitfalls to avoid in effective telephone conversations. there will be some pitfalls that we need to avoid as telephone befrienders. Here are a few bad practices that can lead to poor responses. Let me show you some bad practices that can lead to poor responses. Don't assume that every older adult has hearing challenges. Resist the urge to speak loudly, as if you are speaking to somebody who is partially deaf or something. Instead, check from them to ensure they can hear you clearly and find the pitch that's comfortable and suitable for each person. Of course, this will range from one person to another. Don't have a conversation while you are doing the dishes, while you are cleaning up in the kitchen or in the laundry, or while you are focusing on another task. Older people tend to pick up this lack of concentration and it can irritate them. The older people are sensitive. They know when you are not concentrating on them anymore, and it can be very, very irritable. Don't interrupt them. Remember, silence doesn't have to be awkward. Don't redirect if an older person starts talking about a subject that isn't directly related to the question you asked. They may, sometimes older people have certain stories they've been itching to tell. Don't redirect them if they do that. You might learn something new from the story they are choosing to tell. Don't make yourself the star of the show. Yes, you can have a wider knowledge base on the subject that both of you are discussing. Although you are certainly a part of the conversation, try to keep the focus of your client instead of bringing up too many of your own important and beautiful stories and knowledgeable and showing your knowledge. I want to go to the fourth aspect of this training: conversation starters for telephone befrienders. Conversation starters. How do you start the telephone? Does a telephone befriender set the conversation rolling? Having a few conversation starters to hand can prove very effective for a smooth communication with your client. This is a very important aspect of the training. Although the list is endless and it depends on the likes and preferences of your clients, you can always build on the suggestions that I'm going to itemize while encouraging your client to share a memory, opinion, or viewpoint. For example, you could start a conversation by asking a question like, "Tell me about you." This is a great one because it invites the other person to tell you something that they want to share. There is something they've been itching to share. And when you ask such a question, it's a good starter. If they want to tell you about their job, they can. If they want to tell you about their kids or family, they can. And it's a great way to know what's at the top of somebody's mind, what's at the top of their agenda. Here are some examples of conversation starters that might inspire you as you think of your own. You might think of many others, but I want to give you a few of the tips. If you had to pick any character in a book, movie, or TV, who is most similar to you? Who will you choose and why? Ask such a question and you will see it will stimulate beautiful answers. Many of these older people, they have been watching television, watching movies, reading books, and so on for many years. And they have some characters that come to them quickly, and you will begin to have good conversation. Another one, when you were growing up, what was your dream job? What was your dream job? Some people may tell you fantastic thing that they wanted to become an astronaut. Some might tell you they want to become a lawyer. And they will begin to tell you the good reasons why all of this. And then you are bringing them out of their shell. Another one is, what's your favorite TV show? Tell me about it. Are you looking forward to a fun-filled weekend? Did you do anything fun this past weekend? What's your favorite thing to do on the weekends? If you have your choice, what would you like to do at weekends? There are other types of conversations, and we are going to look at some of them very, very quickly. Conversations about the present is number one. Appropriate and fitting questions can give you a clue into how people are feeling emotionally and physically. This will in turn help us as a service to provide better support for our clients because he will feed us back and then we will use that as a means of improving the service. Here are a few examples of things that happen in the present. How are you feeling today? Yeah, you have to be careful here. Don't become the expert, as you have learned in some of our videos in the past. Don't become the expert. You might be a medical doctor, you could be a banker, you could be a lawyer, you could be a teacher. Don't bring your profession in a big way and begin to lecture the older person. What has been the best part of your week is another question. Another aspect of conversation that you may want to look at is reminiscence-based conversations. Although a lot of discussion is needed while going into discussion about the past, when you are going into discussion about reminiscences, memories, and things like that, speaking about childhood can often bring feelings of peace and comfort to older people. Sometimes, when you ask the right questions, you might end up getting to know your client better. Tell me about your childhood best friend, for example. Another question is, what was the best food your mom made that you loved to eat? And then you will now begin to hear stories from the older person. What was your favorite vacation you took when you were younger? This is bringing them back memory lane. What was your favorite subject in school and why? Who was your favorite teacher? Tell me about your first days at school. Now there is what we call school life conversations too. Most people want to share their lessons and leave a legacy for the next generation. I tell you, most other people, from our experience, we have seen that most of the older people, they have something they can share. And when you ask the right question about their school life conversation, about their family life conversations, and things, you will get all of this. Using this approach for some conversation starters may encourage your client to share some life lessons. For example, what's the best advice you ever gave or received? If you ask a person like that, then they will remember the advice they've given somebody or the advice somebody has given them which they didn't like or which they like very well. Another question you could ask is, what's the best way to handle argument with a friend or colleague? You can ask questions like, how will you advise a friend to handle a difficult work situation? What's the hardest life lesson you ever learned? What's the secret to a happy and healthy life? And then you begin to hear all kinds of stories when you talk like this. The last one in the training session today is how to end a telephone befriending conversation session. As I told you in the beginning, what has a good beginning must have a good ending. Otherwise, you keep on and on and on and on without coming to an end. Let me exchange an idea with you that it's polite for you as a befriender to be the one to end the call since you initiated it in the first place. It's very polite. You don't bore them or make them to be thinking, how am I going to send this gentleman or this lady away? Always end the call by thanking the client for giving you as much of their time. This is strange. You might think I'm the one giving my time. No. Because this is a service. We are the ones receiving their time. We are the ones asking them to give their time. Once the call has ended, you have a responsibility to write down the highlights before you forget. Because memory is notoriously unreliable. This will help you when you are evidencing your befriender lead that you made those calls. This is the only thing that your befriender lead looks at. Your befriender lead doesn't have time to listen to 20 befrienders, 20 telephone befrienders. He wants to sit down, he or she wants to sit down to read your report. And this is very essential. The subject that we have dealt with today in this training is how to improve telephone befrienders' conversation skills. I have touched 5 very important aspects of how to improve telephone befrienders' conversation skills. Number 1, I spoke about things to be aware of as a telephone befriender. Number 2, I spoke about how to improve listening and speaking skills. Number 3, we looked together at pitfalls to avoid in effective telephone conversations. Number 4, conversation starters for telephone befriending is very, very vital. And the 5th and the last one is we looked at how to end a telephone conversation. It's important for me to anchor the training here today. But I want you to do certain things. If you have listened to this training, you can give us thumbs up. I'll be very glad about that. There's an address at the bottom of this screen. There is an email address there. You can send us a message. You can ask questions if you want. And there's a comment column down there. You could write your own comment. It will only help us to improve the service when we get comments for people who are knowledgeable and who are interested in seeing the good of the older people. Also, we would like you to subscribe to this channel so that from time to time, when new trainings come out, you'll be the first to know. Thank you very much, and see you another day.